Dawn breaks over the Eurotas valley. A thin mist rises from the river. The cry of a newborn echoes against the stone walls of a Spartan home. The sun, a fiery orb, ascends over the ancient valley of Eurotas. Its nascent light spills across the rugged peaks of Mount Taygetus, illuminating a land forged by iron and discipline. In a humble Spartan dwelling, a new life announces its arrival. A piercing cry shatters the morning stillness, the first, and perhaps only, true protest this child will ever utter. It is a primal sound, a final, fleeting rebellion against a destiny already etched in stone. For in Sparta, silence is not merely an absence of sound, it is the first, most profound lesson. His mother, a woman of formidable strength, cradles him for only a moment, her gaze a complex tapestry of love and resignation. His father, a hardened warrior, stands stoic, his face devoid of the customary paternal smile. This child, this tiny, vulnerable being, belongs not to them, but to the very soul of Sparta. His fate, his purpose, his very existence, are not theirs to choose. And in this formidable city-state, where every breath was a testament to resilience, fate began not with celebration, but with an unyielding, brutal judgment. This was the crucible of Sparta, a society unlike any other, where the individual was subsumed by the collective, and weakness was a luxury no one could afford. Barely had the umbilical cord been severed, barely had the first breath been drawn, when every male child of Sparta faced his first, most critical trial. He was taken from the warmth of his mother's embrace to the Gerousia, the council of elders. These were not merely old men, they were the living embodiment of Spartan law and tradition, their authority absolute, the judgment final. Their task was simple in its execution, yet merciless in its implication, to determine if the newborn was fit to serve Sparta. This was not a question of potential, but of immediate, undeniable physical perfection. The infant was meticulously inspected, every limb, every feature, scrutinized for any sign of infirmity or imperfection. If the child appeared weak, sickly, or bore any physical flaw that might hinder his future as a hoplite, the decision was swift and brutal. He was deemed unfit, a burden to the state, a potential weakness in the formidable shield wall of Sparta. There was no appeal, no mercy. He was cast aside, taken to the infamous Apothete, a chasm at the foot of Mount Taygetus. There, exposed to the unforgiving elements, he was left to the will of nature, not the tender love of a mother. This was not an act of malice, but a cold, calculated measure to ensure the purity and strength of the Spartan lineage. Whispers, like ancient winds through the mountain passes, spoke of some infants miraculously surviving this ordeal, nursed by compassionate shepherds, perhaps, or discovered and raised by strangers beyond the reach of Spartan law. But these were rare, almost mythical tales. The grim reality was that most faded into the cold embrace of death before the moon could rise again, their brief lives extinguished before they had truly begun. To survive the first day in Sparta was not a guarantee of life, nor a promise of comfort. It was, in itself, a profound privilege, a testament to an inherent resilience that would be tested relentlessly for decades to come. It was the first, harrowing step on a path few societies would ever dare to tread. A rough wooden tub, a stern-faced woman pours dark red wine into it. A baby, no longer crying, is submerged, its tiny body reacting to the shock. The scene fades to a chilling silence, emphasizing the absence of warmth. Those who passed the initial judgment, those deemed worthy of life, were not welcomed into a world of warmth and gentle nurture. Instead, their very infancy became a series of deliberate tests, designed to harden their bodies and minds from the earliest moments. The first of these peculiar rituals involved their very first bath. They were bathed not in soothing water, but in strong, unadulterated wine. This was a deliberate shock to the infant's delicate system, a crude yet effective method to reveal any underlying weaknesses or predispositions to illness. If the child reacted poorly, if fever or sickness followed, he was marked. Perhaps not for immediate death, but certainly for heightened scrutiny, his future path already shadowed by doubt. Love, as the wider Hellenic world understood it, a concept of tender affection, boundless comfort, and emotional solace, was conspicuously absent from Spartan childhood. A crying boy would be met not with comfort, but with deliberate indifference. A scared child, left alone in darkness, would learn early that his fears were his own to conquer. He would learn, with chilling clarity, that comfort was a foreign concept, a dangerous indulgence. The Spartan ethos dictated that such softness bred weakness, and weakness, in the brutal calculus of their society, was synonymous with death. Every deliberate deprivation, every harsh lesson, was a calculated step in forging the unyielding spirit of a future warrior. The Spartan child was a vessel, meticulously shaped and hardened, not for individual happiness, but for the collective strength of the state. His early years were a stark, unyielding preparation for a life of relentless discipline, where every emotion was to be mastered, and every personal desire subjugated to the needs of Sparta. Visual, a stark, dusty field. Lines of young boys, no older than 7, clad in ragged, simple red cloaks, march with an unsettling precision. A sharp whistle pierces the air. Immediately, a scuffle erupts among them, a raw, unbridled display of aggression. No adult intervenes, their faces impassive, observing the unfolding chaos. At the tender age of 7, the boy's life, as he had known it, irrevocably ended. He was taken from his family home, from the last vestiges of maternal care, and plunged into the rigorous, all-consuming world of the Agōgē. This was not merely a school, it was a state-run training system, a brutal crucible designed with a singular, unwavering purpose, to mold boys into the most formidable hoplites, the elite citizen soldiers of Sparta. His new guardian was not a loving father, but a paidonomos, a boy herder, a stern overseer whose authority was absolute and whose methods were uncompromising. This was the true end of childhood, the beginning of a life defined by communal living, relentless physical exertion, and unwavering obedience. The boys lived in communal barracks, stark and unadorned, stripped of any personal comforts. They were deliberately given too little food, a calculated deprivation designed not by accident, but by design. This was a crucial lesson in self-reliance and cunning. To survive, to quell the gnawing hunger, they were implicitly encouraged to steal. Yet, the paradox was profound. If caught stealing, they were punished not for the act of theft itself, but for their incompetence, for failing to execute the act with sufficient stealth and skill. Pain, administered swiftly and without hesitation, became a constant, visceral lesson. Hunger, a relentless, demanding teacher. Obedience, absolute and unquestioning, was the bedrock upon which their entire existence was built. To grow up Spartan was to walk a narrow, perilous path, where every misstep, every moment of weakness, was met with a swift, often brutal blow. Conversely, every triumph, every small victory over hardship, was earned through sheer grit and often, in the raw, unyielding crucible of physical pain. This was the Spartan way, a life forged in hardship, tempered by discipline, and dedicated entirely to the unwavering strength of the state. A boy, now 12, his face gaunt but resolute, shivers beneath his thin red cloak. He is utterly alone in the desolate, moonlit hills of Taygetus. The chilling howls of wolves echo in the distance, a constant reminder of the untamed wilderness. The scene shifts to a public square, a massive crowd gathered. A young man, stripped to the waist, stands before an altar, his back already streaked with blood. The whips descend. At the age of 12, the Spartan boy faced yet another profound test of his burgeoning resilience. He was cast into the unforgiving wilderness, often as part of the crypteia, a clandestine, brutal training regimen. There was no roof over his head, no prepared food, no comforting fire to ward off the biting cold. He was given only a single, thin red cloak, a rudimentary knife, and the sum total of his training thus far. Here, amidst the rugged terrain and the predatory wildlife, he learned the primal arts of survival. He learned to stalk prey with silent precision, to forage for sustenance, to endure the bone-chilling cold of the nights. He was taught to fear nothing, not the lurking shadows, not the growling beasts, not even the ever-present spectre of death itself. This was a brutal education in self-sufficiency, a forging of the individual into a self-reliant hunter and survivor. Yet, even this harrowing ordeal was not the ultimate test. The worst trial, the most infamous ritual, awaited him back in the heart of the city. This was the Diamastigosis, the ritual flogging at the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia. Before a jeering, expectant crowd, young Spartans were subjected to an unimaginable ordeal. They were whipped, often with brutal force, until they collapsed from pain and exhaustion. Sometimes, tragically, they did not rise again, succumbing to the sheer agony. The pain inflicted was not merely physical, it was sacred, a profound act of sacrifice to the goddess. The blood spilled was a testament to their unwavering endurance, a visible offering to the Spartan ideal. The lesson was stark, absolute, and etched into their very being. A Spartan does not scream. A Spartan does not yield. A Spartan endures, silently, stoically, no matter the torment. This ritual was the ultimate affirmation of their unbreakable will, a public declaration of their absolute dedication to the state. Visual, dust-filled training grounds. Young men, their bodies honed and scarred, spar with fierce intensity, their movements fluid and deadly. Others, equally hardened, look on, cheering their comrades, some bleeding from minor wounds, all learning from the brutal exchange. The scene shifts to a communal dining hall, men sharing a simple meal, their camaraderie palpable. From the ages of 17 to 29, the Spartan's journey through the Agōgē entered its final, most intense stages. He transitioned through the ranks of the Paidiskoi and Hebantas, becoming a full-fledged member of his military unit. This was a period of relentless refinement, where physical prowess met tactical acumen. He fought, not just in mock battles, but in rigorous, often brutal training exercises designed to simulate the chaos of real combat. He studied, not academic subjects, but the intricate strategies of warfare, the history of Spartan triumphs, and the unwritten code of honor that bound them all. Most importantly, he bonded with his brothers in arms, forging an unbreakable camaraderie that transcended mere friendship. This bond was cultivated in the Syssitia, the common messes where all Spartan men ate together, sharing simple meals and discussing matters of state and war. These communal meals were not just about sustenance, they were the very heart of Spartan social life, reinforcing unity and equality among citizens. Here, loyalty was forged in shared hardship, in the daily grind of military life, and in the absolute reliance on one another in the face of danger. Romantic attachments between soldiers, often between an older, experienced warrior and a younger, aspiring one, were not uncommon. These relationships, often misunderstood by modern sensibilities, were not seen as a weakness. On the contrary, they were believed to foster even greater loyalty and courage on the battlefield, as men fought not just for Sparta, but for the honor and safety of the beloved comrades. It was loyalty forged in the crucible of shared experience and the ever-present threat of battle. Though he might marry, often through a ritualized capture of his bride, he did not live with his wife until the age of 30. His true home remained the barracks, his first family, his fellow warriors. His nights were spent with his unit, his days dedicated to training and communal life. This deliberate separation ensured that his primary allegiance remained with the state and his military unit, reinforcing the collective over the individual. Only when he had earned his scars, both visible and invisible, only when he had proven his unwavering honor, only when he had demonstrated his absolute mastery of the shield and spear, only then, after decades of relentless training and unwavering dedication, might he finally be called a full Spartan man, a citizen warrior worthy of the name. A group of strong, athletic Spartan women, clad in short tunics, race across a sandy track, their movements powerful and graceful. Some practice with javelins, their throws precise and forceful. They sing, their voices strong and clear, chanting rhythmic exercises. The scene emphasizes their physical prowess and confident demeanor. While Spartan girls were mercifully spared the brutal physical regimen of the Agōgē, their lives were by no means spared hardship or rigorous training. Their upbringing was unique in the ancient world, a stark contrast to the cloistered lives of women in other Greek city-states like Athens. Spartan women were trained to be strong, not for the direct purpose of war, but for the equally vital role of motherhood. For Sparta, with its unwavering focus on military might, believed with absolute conviction that only strong, healthy women could bear strong, healthy sons, the future warriors of the state. Their physical education was extensive and deliberate. They ran, they wrestled, they threw the javelin and discus, and they danced with a vigor that would shock their Athenian counterparts. These activities were not merely for physical fitness, they were also designed to instill discipline, resilience, and a competitive spirit. They were educated, learning to read and write, and were encouraged to speak their minds, a freedom almost unheard of for women in the ancient world. Unlike women in many other Greek poleis, Spartan women held significant economic power. They were free to own and inherit land, and by the classical period, it is estimated that they controlled a substantial portion, perhaps even up to 2/5, of all Spartan land. This economic independence granted them a degree of autonomy and influence that was truly exceptional. They were not hidden away, they were visible, active participants in Spartan society. They famously mocked the weak or cowardly boys in song, shaming them into greater strength and courage. Their sharp wit and unwavering dedication to the Spartan ideal were legendary. They were the pillars of the state, the guardians of the home front, and the producers of the next generation of warriors. The Spartan ideal of womanhood was so profound that to die in childbirth was considered the equal of dying in battle for a man. Both were seen as the ultimate sacrifice for the state, a testament to their unwavering dedication to Sparta's survival and glory. Spartan women were not merely wives and mothers, they were formidable partners in the grand, brutal experiment that was Spartan society. An old man, his face a roadmap of scars and weathered lines, sits alone in a simple stone house. His gaze is fixed on a battered, circular shield resting by the hearth, its bronze surface dulled by time and countless battles. A faint, knowing smile touches his lips. At the venerable age of 60, if he was fortunate enough to live that long, the Spartan warrior transitioned into a new, revered role within society. He became an elder, a member of the Gerousia, a lawgiver, a mentor to the younger generations. He had survived the relentless crucible of the Agōgē, the brutal realities of the battlefield, and the unrelenting expectation of greatness that defined every moment of his existence. His mind, though perhaps slower, was a vast repository of experience and wisdom. He remembered, with chilling clarity, the boys who did not return from the apotheke, the comrades who fell in distant lands, their names etched into the collective memory of Sparta. He recalled the friends buried beneath foreign soil, their lives cut short in the service of the state. Each scar on his body, each line on his face, told a story of endurance, of sacrifice, of unwavering commitment. He might smile faintly, a rare expression on a Spartan face, as he looked at his shield. That shield, his aspis, was more than just a piece of equipment, it was the very symbol of his identity, his honor, his life. It was the one possession he was forbidden to lose in battle, for to return without his shield was the ultimate disgrace, a mark of cowardice. And in the end, that was all Sparta ever truly asked of him, to live a life of unwavering discipline, to fight with unmatched courage, and to never, ever return without his shield. His life was a testament to the Spartan ideal, a living embodiment of the unique, brutal, and ultimately glorious way of life. To be born in Sparta was to be claimed by war before you took your first breath. It was to be forged in a crucible of hardship, where every moment was a test, and every weakness was purged. To live was to endure, to fight with an unyielding spirit, to bleed for the collective, to sacrifice the individual for the unwavering strength of the state. It was a life of relentless discipline, of profound camaraderie, and of an almost terrifying dedication to an ideal. And to die, for a Spartan, to fall in battle, facing the enemy, was not a tragedy. It was the highest honor of all, the ultimate fulfillment of a life lived entirely for Sparta. Their legacy, carved into the very bones of history, reminds us of a civilization that dared to live by a code of iron, where courage was currency, and the shield was the soul. History Unburied. Subscribe now to uncover more untold stories from the annals of time. Join our community of history enthusiasts and delve deeper into the past.